I'm Jasmine Moradi, and you're listening to the Queens of Tech podcast, a podcast series about raising the voice of workplace champions. 60 plus questions in around 30 to 40 minutes with women, women of color, non-binary, and transgender influencers about their journey into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I started the Queens of Tech podcast initiative in May 2022 because I would like to retain more women, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders in the tech industry. Talent is out there, but our work environment needs to improve for all to feel safer, stay authentic, and to be valued for our contributions. My vision is to raise the workplace ecosystem for all in tech by killing the imposter syndrome, stopping bad behavior, and increasing equity opportunities. Each podcast talk is built around 60 plus questions regarding upbringing, education, career path, DIB, and future advice. My mission is to bridge the gap between schools and workplaces by getting into the heart of my guest's personal life and career journey to inspire other girls, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders to unleash their full potential to reach top leadership roles in the tech industry. My goal is to raise the voices of tech champions around the world and together with companies, investors, and politicians, raise the challenges and opportunities around equity, inclusive, diversity, and belonging in our workplaces. Enough is enough. I would like to enforce companies to build a sustainable, inclusive culture, to retain diverse talent so we keep the workforce power equity to continue building future diverse and inclusive products. Representation matters. Your voice matters. In this episode, I'm very excited to welcome my guest, tech queen Josefina Sonnhammer, co-founder and CEO of Subscribe. Hi, Josefina.
Hello.
I'm very happy to have you joining us from Sweden today. How are you?
I feel great today. I feel rested, energetic, so I'm very excited about this.
I'm glad to hear. So now, let us dive into your journey into STEM. Hope you're ready for the Queens of Tech 60 plus questions. Let's warm up with a few fun facts about you. How would you describe your personality in 3 hashtags?
I am curious, energetic, and open-minded.
How would you describe your life in 3 sentences or hashtags?
Mixing city life with countryside and outdoors living.
What kind of music stimulates and motivates you the most?
I'm a huge fan of musicals because they're so filled with passion and emotions, and you can never go wrong with Red and Black or Don't Cry for Me, Argentina.
What is your personal motto?
Everything will be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end.
What is your favorite book?
Gone with the Wind. I just love the characters and the story and the mixing with the history. It's an awesome book.
What is your favorite podcast?
I have so many, but I think my absolute favorite one is P3 History. I love to listen to the details about history and what the people did back then.
Mac or PC?
Definitely Mac.
Say something interesting about you that most people don't know.
I started my first startup in 2015 in food tech. It was like the app Karma, but for private people instead of restaurants. And after a year, we had to pull it down.
What is your hidden talent?
I can make bricks without straw when it comes to cooking.
If you were going to write a book about your life, what would the title be?
The Chronicles of Josefina.
Now, let us dig deeper. Our childhood has an effect on our adulthood. Our early experiences shape our belief about ourselves, others, and the world. Now, I want to discover your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Stockholm.
What was your dream job as a child?
I actually wanted to become an actor and move to Hollywood for a really long time. So I auditioned for several kids' movies, and I also joined a musical in early ages, but my talent was never acknowledged. So with this realization, I wanted to become an interior designer which is funny because today I really don't care about interior design.
What was your favorite subject in school?
I've always loved math, and I've been so lucky to have awesome teachers and also great support from my dad.
What was your least favorite subject?
All of the social studies topics like geography, history, and religion, it never interested me that much.
And what is your earliest memory of technology and the arrival of the internet?
Well, I remember when mom and dad bought our first computer, and me and my sister were taking turns. So we're putting the timer in 30 minutes each to play games. And also like the sound of the early like connections to the internet.
And which were the three first technology gadgets you owned beyond the computer?
The first one was the MP3 player, and then mobile phone, and then a digital camera.
And who was your favorite role model growing up and why?
I was actually really looking up to a relative of mine. She was, or she is, about 10 years older than me. And I still look up to her because she always done her thing and she's been very successful in her job and also loved it. She's so talented and intelligent and with a lot of integrity. And she also did skateboarding, which I thought and still think is super cool.
With your passion for history, musicals, and startups, how do you think where you grew up and the school you went to and the generation you come from influence your education and career choice?
So much. Like I grew up in two different areas in Stockholm, and both of them have definitely influenced my choices and also my family and relative. I remember seeing my dad standing in front of the computer and having all these colored like numbers. He was doing programming, and I was thinking like, I'm never gonna work with that. And then a few years later, I applied to the same school as he went to. So yeah, I think it's affected me in so many ways.
Now, I'm going to read two quotes. First one, how does the universe expect me to choose a career path at 16? I can't even choose what I want for dinner. Second, Abraham Lincoln said, I quote, the best way to predict your future is to create it. So, Josefina, I want to know the choices behind your career path. Where and what did you end up studying at university?
As I liked math and physics, I decided to study engineering, and I did it at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm. And the bachelor was in design and product development, and I did my master's in sustainable technology.
Who and what influenced you to get into your chosen field? Your father?
Actually, no. I don't know, but I've always loved to combine theoretical subjects with creativity. So my dream job and why I decided to choose the design and product development was to start working for IKEA and design their furnitures because I've always thought they were so cool, like those flat packages becoming like a full-blown furniture.
So, after that, what professional roles have you had before that led you to start your own company?
Not a designer at IKEA, but when I graduated, I started as a project engineer for a big tunneling project here in Stockholm. And following that, I was a management consultant, mainly within IT transformations at Deloitte. And lastly, I was working at Klarna as domain operations lead in payments.
So, what does Subscribe do?
Subscribe empowers direct-to-consumer brands to provide their products through a subscription service. So with Subscribe, customers can gain the convenience of managing all their subscriptions from one single unified platform. So we're ensuring a consistent and reliable experience.
What is your title and what is your main responsibilities in the company?
I am the CEO of the company, and we're still in such an early phase. So both of us, two co-founders, are putting on a lot of different hats. So in the beginning, I was also the CTO, but right now I'm also responsible for fundraising, sales, customer success, product management, business operations, strategy, marketing, design, you name it.
What would you say was the reason behind starting exactly this type of company?
So since the startup back in 2015 within food tech, I've wanted to do something similar, and I've had so many different ideas, but none really stuck with me. And then 1.5 years ago, I started subscribing to razors, and I experienced the greatness of subscriptions, but also the lack of a good tool to really enable their full potential. So that's actually the main reason. It started with me having the product and seeing the potential of it.
And what does a typical workday or work week look like for you?
it's never the same. So I would say the regular things is that we have a Monday meeting, the whole team, going through the week. Then we have our daily stand-ups, and every second week we have a retro. But except from that, sometimes I'm in the office, sometimes I'm out meeting potential customers or investors. It's a mix every day.
I love the quote, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. So Josefina, what do you love about your role?
The freedom and the flexibility. So I'm in the driver's seat. That's what I absolutely love about my role.
And what is the best experience you've had so far? Any examples?
I love pitching. So sometimes the best pitching events can be the most unexpected ones. When someone all of a sudden, say, in front of 100 people, Josephine, go up and pitch Subscribey. That's the most exciting experiences.
Impressive. And what is the biggest challenge you've encountered so far and how did you tackle it?
So a while ago, we took a strategic decision, and later we realized it was the wrong decision. So it made us lose time, money, and motivation. It was very frustrating, but the good thing was that it made us as a team come closer together and we were aligned on what we needed to do. So we got back on the right direction, but it was a very hard time.
And what do you wish everybody understood about your role?
That in the early stages, it's not just one role.
And what is the one common myth about your professional field that you want to disapprove?
I would say that people ask me a lot of the time, oh, how are you able to take such a risk, starting your own company, being the CEO? But the thing is that risk is something that each one of us has their own definition of. So what's a risk for me is not a risk for you. So when people just generalize and say that the role as a CEO of a startup is taking a lot of risk, to me, that's not the full story. And I also think it creates a conception of the role that scares a lot of people away.
What do you love about working in the tech industry?
I once read that the question now is not can we build it, but should we build it? And this is the summary of what I love with tech, that anything is possible to build. So now the tricky part is to answer the question, should we build it?
Oprah Winfrey said, I quote, think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is not a stepping stone to greatness. So Josefina, what has by far been your biggest achievement in your career?
Subscribing, to build a company from just an idea, starting from scratch, attracting talent that today is making up a team of total 7 people without any external investment.
So what's the biggest factors help you become successful? Any success habits?
I think curiosity is key. To be curious about how things work, about people, about new topics, about learning new things, to have that drive to always learn and understand more, that will lead you to success in one way or another. And additionally, I'm a big fan of atomic habits, so I really recommend reading up on that theory.
How do you measure your own performance at work?
I think it's mostly about the team and how we're doing as a team. So all the small milestones that we achieve at work and the stepping stones, those are leading the way up the staircase, so to say.
And what success? Josefina, comes failure. What is the biggest failure in your career and what did you learn from it?
So I've had many failures, but I think the biggest failure that I've done is wasting time in roles where I was not happy, motivated, or passionate. So going forward, I will be quicker in acknowledging. And for me, it's not worth to just sit tight and wait for better times, but to move on faster.
Very good advice for our listeners. And what is inspiring and motivating you the most in your role and career right now?
Talking to customers. Whenever I've had a customer call, I get so much energy and I get so excited. And it always roots back to why we're doing what we're doing.
Let us now jump into the influence of mentors, role models, champions, and sponsors. Role models can consciously or subconsciously be a powerful force in our lives. In addition, champions can stand up and advocate for us and open up the world of possibilities. Sponsors match emerging talent with leaders and influential employees who can help us move ahead in our career. Josefina, do you have a mentor, champion, or a sponsor today?
No, I don't.
Who is the female, non-binary, or transgender role model you look up to in your field?
As being part of the startup community, I'm surrounded by so many role models. So there's so many great female founders around me that I'm constantly inspired by.
History shows that it has been more common for men having mentors, champions, and sponsors in business than women. You just mentioned that you have not had it yourself, but how important do you think is to have a mentor, champion, or sponsor during one's career?
I think it's super important. So previously, I've been very lucky to have at almost every workplace I've been in a female role model where I've always felt like this is the target for me of who I want to become when I reach that level of seniority.
Let's move on to leadership now. Adina Friedman, president and CEO of Nasdaq, said, I quote, empowering those around you to be heard and valued make the difference between a leader who simply instructs and one who inspires. And Shirley Sandberg, ex-COO of Facebook, said, I quote, leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that the impact lasts in your absence. Josefina, what does leadership mean to you?
Those are very good quotes. And it's a very complex question. But I think to be summarized, to me, it means to have the skills to bring out the best in others.
What do you consider a good versus a bad leader?
A good leader is attentive and lets everyone be seen and heard. And a good leader understands their team's strengths and weaknesses and actively works to develop and support each member. And in contrast, a bad leader prioritizes personal success over the team, lack of empathy, and exhibit poor communication skills.
How would you describe yourself as a leader?
I am authentic, empowering, and accountable.
And as a leader, what values are most important to you?
Transparency, open communication, and integrity.
And what leadership lessons have you learned that have formed you into the leader you are today?
So many lessons, and I think I'm learning every day still. But one major lesson that I learned through a specific experience was the significance of standing behind a team member, even though when we don't share the same opinion. So in this specific case, the team member wanted a promotion, and I did not believe that the person was ready. So we had long discussions where I expressed my opinion and my concerns. But in the end, I decided to give my signature to make him go up to the promotion. And that was the best decision.
What are your 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses?
My 3 strengths are that I am fearless, I find it easy to learn new things, and I'm a never-ending optimist. And my weaknesses is that I can be very impatient and quite impulsive, and sometimes I don't care enough about details.
Let us now jump into the hottest topic in business today, workplace culture, unlocking the power of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. What does diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging mean to you personally?
I like the saying, diversity is being invited to the dance, inclusion is being asked to dance, and equity or belonging is allowing you to dance like no one is watching.
That was so beautiful put together. And what do you consider being 3 to 5 signs of good company culture if you were to join a company again?
I would look out for the following signs. Are you encouraged to raise mistakes and failures without being judged or punished? Are the leaders working closely and being present with the rest of the team? Is there flexibility enough to meet everyone's various different needs and requirements? And maybe most important, are people having fun? Like, can you hear laughter in the corridors?
And as a woman, what has been the most significant political or cultural barrier in your career, and how have you overcome these challenges?
I've always been in professions who are male dominated, and I think being adaptable is a blessing and a curse. But that is often how I overcome any cultural barrier up to today.
And why do you think it's important for more women, women of color, non-binary, and transgender to join the tech industry today?
For many reasons. One being to make it easier for the future women, women of color and non-binary or transgender to join the industry. And of course, all the data points out that diversity is a driving force towards success.
Do you and how do you speak with your colleagues, peers, and community about DEIB challenges, for example, salary gaps, promotions, etc.?
This is a topic that we regularly speak about. We're discussing previous experiences, how to tackle these challenges, and how we want our company culture to be like.
There are many public and internal discussions about the barriers women of color, non-binary, and transgenders face from reaching higher position in the tech industry or receiving funding. How do you feel it has affected and is affecting you, and what is your advice on how to best unblock these roadblocks?
Previously, it has affected me in ways where I have not been able to grow and develop as fast as I could have, as well as if we look to the compensation. And these two in combination has often led to a lack of motivation. And to unblock these roadblocks, one important lesson that I have learned is that these barriers are often caused by the leadership in the company. And you have to start from there and work your way down if anything is to happen and if barriers are to be removed.
And today, tech companies spend a lot of marketing money to track women of color, non binary, and transgenders. However, at the same time, they're finding it hard to retain them. Articles show that women are leaving the tech industry. What is your best advice on strategies for how companies can work to build a stronger corporate culture that engages DIB?
First of all, I share that marketing money should be put on implementing a culture where everyone wants to stay. Otherwise, that's wasted money. And another lesson learned from previous employments is to set concrete targets. Like, where do you want to be in X amount of months? And also highlighting the success that is an outcome of gender diversity and equity. So show how, when, and where it has been used to generate success, and that it could not have been reached without it.
What would you say are the few factors of challenges of implementing a DEIB culture in a workplace and in the tech industry today?
I think a common perception is that the topic is not important or connected to the success of the company. And another challenge is that it gets low priority from leadership. And of course, changing a culture is hard and uncomfortable. So many people choose the comfortable way.
Why and how do you think companies would benefit then from having not just women of color, non binary, and transgender leaders, but actually higher gender representation at C suite level and boardrooms with actual mandate?
I think this is absolute key. The C-level and boardrooms are a representative of the rest of the company. So if they don't succeed with a high gender representation, then why should the rest of the organization? You cannot lead by example if it's not represented within the leadership group.
How much do you think the tech industry has changed regarding the IB since you joined?
Sad to say, but not at all.
And looking back on your career, what one thing would you have changed in your working environment to break the bias?
I would have raised my voice more often when I saw something or heard something that I thought was inappropriate, and also raising awareness just by highlighting someone's biases. Also, another trick I've learned is just asking the question, what do you mean? That's something the most effectful thing you can do.
And looking forward, what will you do as a leader to improve the bias for the next generation of women of color, non binary, and transgenders in tech?
It all starts with yourself. So I will continuously work on my own biases because we all have them and we all need to be aware of them.
Let us move on to another hot topic in business today, which is work life balance and mental health. Josefina, you have without a doubt a busy lifestyle. You wear a lot of hats. How do you take care of yourself to maintain good mental health?
I regularly work out. I spend time in nature on my sailboat, trail running, or on a pair of skis. Or whenever I can, not in Sweden that much, I do surfing. So staying physically active is super important to me and recharge the batteries with my friends and family in the countryside.
Have you ever experienced burnout?
No, luckily I have never.
And then what is your advice on how companies can create a more mentally healthy workplace in the new now?
It's to create an environment and atmosphere built on trust. So this way people feel safe to raise any concerns or issues with their mental health. And it's okay to ask for help and support regarding the topic.
What motivates you every day to get out of bed?
I usually go to sleep every night looking forward to tomorrow, even though it's a Friday, because I know tomorrow, Saturday, could mean some working too. So work, training, and spending time with my loved ones. And of course, sometimes I can get stuck in a rut, but then making plans for the future to look forward to is a great way to tackle dullness. So sometimes only thinking and daydreaming about, for example, a vacation is 50% of the total enjoyment.
Beautiful. And now let us wrap up with a few words of wisdom and a piece of advice for our listeners. Josefina, what is the best piece of advice you've been given that has helped you during setbacks in your role and career?
Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
And then what is the worst advice you've ever been given and how did you tackle that?
When I just graduated and in my first role, I was told to get kids early as it would help me to move faster in my career. And I think it's just stupidity to advise people making life-changing decisions that is also out of your control.
Is there something you wish you would have known or a skill you wish you had when starting out in the tech industry?
Something I wish I'd known is that you're not just joining an industry, you're joining a community. So the startup community is the best community I've ever been part of. Everyone's helping each other, providing support for everyone to succeed. And if I would have known this earlier, I probably would have started my own company sooner.
And if you had the ability to go back to time when you were just at the beginning of your career, then what advice would you give to your younger self?
Raise your voice and talk more and express your opinions. The more you do it, the less scary it is. And not to stress too much about things. It will all work out in the end.
And what advice would you give to young girls, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders who want and trying to break into STEM fields today, especially wanting to become next generation leaders?
So embarking on a STEM career is both fulfilling and challenging, especially in workplaces lacking diversity and inclusivity. So having experienced similar challenges myself, I understand the uphill battle. So in environments that don't prioritize diversity, it can be very discouraging to fight for a change. So while it's super important to advocate for this change, sometimes recognizing your own well-being and your own success is more important. And it's okay to move on from a workplace that doesn't align with your values.
Last but not least, Josefina, what is next for you in your role and career in tech? What are your career aspirations?
Well, we are taking Subscriber to the skies. So that's next up for us. After that, let's see where life or my next banana shell will take me. But I'm not leaving the startup world, that's for sure.
I look forward to follow your journey. Thank you, Josefina, so much for being a guest on the Queens of Tech podcast. Sharing your journey will without a doubt inspire change and reshape company culture for the next generation of women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders in tech.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you have worked in the tech industry minimum 3 years and would like to share your journey, please nominate yourself or somebody you know to i@jasminemoradi.com. For more podcast episodes and to learn more about the Queens of Tech initiative and to support us, visit queensof.tech.